Yes, it's recording. We're ready.
Great. Thank you very much, guys. So welcome everyone. And I want to thank you everyone for being here today, this afternoon. Hopefully we will learn a couple of stuff, very interesting stuff regarding, of course, virtual production and VFX using AI, and some interesting techniques, a couple of secret sauces tips here and there. So yeah, a couple of notes. If you want to ask any question, you can interrupt me. You can chat asking questions at any time, and I will answer it right away. Or you can even interrupt me, with sound, with no any problem. But just be aware that please be careful with the mute, so we don't interrupt the session. Okay, guys? Okay, I will tell you a little bit about us. We're a production company. We also do production services, general production services, but also we began with to specialize in virtual production, VFX, and some other high-tech, innovative techniques for film. So I want to share you a demo we have with some of the projects we did with these clients: Amazon, Sony, Paramount, AMC, Netflix, BlackBerry, Lionsgate, Universal. And there are a couple of music videos, a couple of movies, of course, and series also. And our latest job, our last job that we are very proud of is Train Dreams. Train Dreams is a movie produced by Blackbird Pictures. And as you might know, it was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, for 4 Oscars. And one of the Oscars is cinematography. And we're really proud and really fortunate because we worked with the DP team, with Adolfo Veloso, was the director of photography for Train Dreams. And fortunately also, he's one of the favorites to win the Oscars. So it was a great experience, and I will share a little bit more about that experience at the end of this session in a case study. So I will play a little demo of our company. We don't have all the all the shots here because we still have NDA for some of them, as you can understand. But this is a very good idea of what we have been doing in the last months. Do you hear it? Okay, so let's begin with the big question. What's virtual production? Probably some of you are, know exactly what virtual production is, but I will explain a little bit. for the ones that doesn't know. So
I mentioned.
let's see this video and I will, comment over it. Let me just turn on the subtitles. So as you know, virtual production is a new technique that replaces mainly green screen technique, and we will see some of the advantages, as you can see in the images. You get great results with virtual production, and the first mainstream series that used virtual production extensively was Mandalorian. But before Mandalorian, a couple of techniques were developed for Lion King and for also Jungle Book, to begin with tracking and some 3D environments. And of course, the background of virtual production is real projection is like the granddaddy of virtual production. But you have several problems, as you can see with real projection. One of the problems is that you don't have precise perspective. And of course, the movement of the camera is very limited with this technique. Also, you don't match very well the background with the foreground because the limits of the techniques back then. And now with virtual production, you don't have that problem because you have a tracking, as you can see here, you have the tracking of the camera. So the background reacts exactly to the movement of the camera, matching the perspective with a lot of precision. You can see here the effect named parallax. The parallax effects is the movement of the perspective related to the camera and your foreground objects and your actors, for instance. So you can get pretty realistic results, as you can see. But also, one of the biggest advantages, as you can see there, is that virtual production LED wall is a lighting source now. It's, a lighting element that brings to the scene very high quality lights and reflections. As you can see, there are the reflections on the motorcycle and also on the sunglasses. So you can achieve pretty realistic stuff in real time, and that's very important. You save a lot of money and a lot of time of post-production because you have your scene happening and your visual effects happening in real time. So as you can see with green screen, the problem you have is that you might have a lot of spill, for instance, here in the reflections. And that's pretty cumbersome. That's very time consuming in a post-production process. And as you know, time is money. So it's usually very expensive to refine and retouch the green screen technique. Also, of course, another advantage is that your actors and your director can interact with the actual background, what's happening in the background. Look at that. So it feels pretty realistic. It feels like if your actor is inside a hologram. That's the feeling of it, like a new reality. Another advantage is that with virtual production, you have very few physical elements. As you can see here, the physical elements are just the desk, a little bit of a physical wall and a couple of props, and that's it. The rest of the scene, the rest of the environment is full 3D. It's a 3D building. So you save a lot of money. And before, back in the day, and I mean 1 year or 2 years ago, the technology was very expensive, but fortunately, now it's much more affordable. We have a lot of brands of LED walls that usually is the more expensive element of the virtual production technique. And the tracking systems, you have several options of tracking systems that can allow any kind of budget to produce now with virtual production. And I mean, you can be an independent filmmaker and you now have affordable access to this kind of high-end techniques. And that's part precisely of what we want to share today in the webinar and in the workshop that we will do at the end of February. So we have all these, of course, amazing advantages and some advantages more. We call this space the volume, as you can see here. That's why our academy is named Academy of Volumetric Production, because we basically work in this place named the volume, in this space named the volume, and you can see it here. And also another advantage is that now the studios and the sound stages are much much smaller. You can see there that's a rather small, wall, and you can represent huge spaces in a small wall, because this technique that we call dynamic force perspective. So you have a lot of advantages. And here he's explaining that you can even mix and match hybrid techniques, such as virtual production and green screen approach. So it's pretty flexible. It's very flexible to work with virtual production. So we will also discuss and make notes of several, other advantages, and we will, of course, right now explain all the elements regarding this amazing technique. So summarizing again, you have a lot of cost efficiency, and we will discuss today why specifically. You have the advantage of real-time visualization. You have a lot of flexibility. And this is very important, because when you build a physical set, you don't have that much flexibility, because you cannot repaint it fast, or you cannot adapt or resize elements in a physical set. It's very difficult to do that. And with virtual production, you can repaint immediately, you can resize immediately, you can move complete buildings in the background virtually. So that gives you a lot of flexibility and allows you to experiment very creatively with all kinds of setups. And of course, you have greater security and control. And one good example of this is the Train Dreams project, because we did a huge forest fire for this project. So imagine the option of doing fire with practical special effects, with actual gas and fire. The safety measures should be very strict, and you should have, very expensive insurance, and you have liability, and you need to have the firefighters over there, and the inspectors and everything. And when you use virtual production, of course, you save a lot of money on safety and security. So now let me explain the elements related to virtual production. The main element, of course, is the LED background, and usually is the more expensive element of all. And this is very important. The quality of it is very important. Knowing how to set it up is very important. The second element is the media server. The media server is the one that will display, second. Oh, the media server is the one that will display in real time all these full 3D environments. So as you can imagine, the media server should be very high quality, very high spec, because usually with the new LED walls, you will need to handle at least 7K of resolution in real time. So that's pretty challenging, and it's very processing consume. You need a lot of process to manage that kind of resolution in full 3D in real time. So another very important element is the LED processor. The LED processor is the controller of the technical specs of the display itself. And I mean the color specs, the distribution of the video in the video wall, of course, and the configuration and mapping of the order of all the panels, etc., etc. Another very important element is your actual physical objects, your foreground set, what we call the set dressing part of the volume. And this is very important, because you must match the quality and characteristics of the real objects with the virtual objects. And we will discuss the techniques about this in a moment. Another very important element is the track camera, the tracking, that goes on top of the camera, because it will precisely calculate the position of the camera in real time. So this tracking system can feed this data to the media server, so the background reacts exactly to the movement of the camera. And this technique will allow to do the parallax effect, the perspective effect that makes the trick. We also have the physical lighting, of course, the practical lighting, and we have the BP operator and what we call the brain bar. The brain bar is the control bar, the control desk of everything happening. And finally, we have the DMX controller that synchronizes the actual physical lighting with the virtual lighting, so it can match, and you can make everything automatic, and any change in the colors or the lighting characteristics of the background will also make the changes on the physical lighting so it matches. We also have atmosphere and special effects, and this is practical special effects. And it's very important also to make the practical atmosphere and special effects match the digital atmosphere and visual effects in the background. The usual special effects we use inside a volume is fog, of course, smoke, haze, rain, ice, snow, etc., etc. So it's very important to make the actual physical special effects to match the background, and we will discuss this further. Do you have any question? Okay. So now I will explain the workflow. This workflow, we designed this workflow, and it's a little bit different to the traditional workflow, and I will explain in some of the areas why. It might seem a little bit intimidating right now, but actually, if I explain it, it's pretty straightforward. And the first stage and the first part of this workflow is previs and techvis. And this is very important because our motto with virtual production is you need to fix it in pre-production. Remember that, old quote that says, don't worry, we'll fix it in post. Our motto is the contrary. Don't worry, we'll fix it in pre. So pre-production is very, very important. Why is this? Because if you think about virtual production integrates the three main stages of production. And I mean pre-production, production, and post-production. Because in a traditional way to do it, all the VFX and the CGI is part of the post-production process. But because, in virtual production, all the VFX are in real time, it becomes part of production also. But you need to pre-design all these environments and all these VFX before production. And that's why pre-production is very important. And that's why actually the three stages become one: pre-production, production, and post-production. So I will also show you here, and I will comment, in some of the processes of pre-production. And I have to tell you, pre-production with virtual production is really fun, as you can see here, because you play a lot with different situations. You're allowed to experiment a lot inside Unreal to design all your sequences, to pre-design and concept your creatures, your assets, your props, your environments, your visual effects inside this amazing world, based on Unreal Engine. And I will explain Unreal Engine further. But it's very similar to design a video game and then play with the video game. You will see it here in this video. And this process, this part of the previs, we call it virtual scouting, because as you can see, the director is scouting inside this virtual world. And you can use tools such as iPads, but also you can use tools such as virtual reality headsets. So you can immerse yourself in the design and in the concepts um, of your movie, and that's amazing. So you have plenty of tools to play with. You have controls of puppeteering, controls for creatures. You have also even, car processing, simulated car processing to design, running shot or, any kind of a vehicle movement design. And you also have, of course, the capability of changing, and adapting any need in previs. And that's very important. Use the pre-production tools to plan ahead your production so you can save time and money and, of course, be more precise on your filmmaking workflows. So here are some of the examples we did actually, and this was the vision of the director. And then we built a world based on this vision and based on this storyboard to deliver precisely a full 3D environment for the director to play around and to choose exactly what kind of composition, what kind of blocking, what kind of movement he wanted for the camera in every environment. And this was the actual production. This was done in Dallas, Texas, in an amazing studio by Opticate, named Trilogy Studios. And this is the final, moment of the shot. And it was pretty fast and pretty straightforward because we did good pre-production and good tech piece. We also have other AI tools to help with the pre-production. Of course, you have the usual suspects such as ChatGPT and Gemini that can help you with the drafting of your scripts, with ideas for to make of course any kind of concept or dialogues, etc., etc. And I know that's pretty controversial now. There's a lot of discussions, and I think it's very healthy to discuss both the reaches and the limits and the regulations that we should apply as filmmakers to AI. But meanwhile, I think we should explore, all our technological options, because history teaches us that usually technology wins. Remember, Gmail, remember, of course, Uber, remember Airbnb, remember all the technologies that were very disruptive and even controversial. And, technology always wins in trends. So we should be aware of that, and we should know and understand and dominate these techniques so we dominate the technology and not the other way around. Okay. We have other tools, very interesting tools, such as Filmica AI. Filmica, helps you with making the process of breakdown of your movie and catalog of your movie much faster. It analyzes your script and it helps you to create the breakdown and the catalog and even the budget of your project. So that's pretty cool. And also we have LTX Studio that helps you with concept and helps you a lot with storyboards. So those tools are really, really amazing also for pre-production. Any questions? Oh, Island causes a brain bar, but yeah, BC is the general term. Okay. Okay, volume control, not brain bar. Okay, yeah. Well, you can, call it, actually, this is very interesting because part of the history of how we evolve and how we learn was with Scott Ross. Scott Ross was the general manager for ILM for 8 years, and we are fortunate enough to have him as an advisor. So that's why maybe we call it brain bar, because we got all the info from him and his peers. And he's a great guy. He was also the founder, the co-founder with James Cameron. I think he's still his partner of Digital Domain. And he's of course a semi-retired VFX guru, you know. So yeah, he was one of the our advisors for the workflow of a virtual production. That's why maybe we call it brain bar also. But yeah, volume control, operation control desk, or whatever you want to call it is nice, is good. So here we have a very interesting secret sauce, precisely, you know, talking about Scott Ross. The usual way, and I will show you a little video about that. And the usual way to design your environments is like this. You go and you hire a CGI artist and ask him to build uh, an environment, a set like this, maybe, you know, this is like a sci-fi or maybe a space station, the insides of it. And you know, you go the usual way, you go with Blender or with Maya, and you model all your assets, your elements for your space station. And then, of course, you prepare all the assets, you separate all the surfaces, you name the surfaces, and after that, you know, attach materials and texturing and colors, etc., etc. And after you apply the materials and the textures, you might, you know, go to light design, you know, to the old environment and precisely go and light all your scene inside. And finally, maybe you put a little bit of atmosphere, such as haze or whatever, in your scene. That's the traditional way to do it. There's another way that is, I think, better, because after this, you usually hire your practical, you know, team. And what I mean is your art designer or your production designer, and you hire the team to make the actual practical set of the foreground set, and design it based on your CGI asset, you know. And we think that's a mistake sometimes, because when you do it that way, you might be doing it, and the results are a little bit gamish, you know, because all your design is based on a CGI originally. The other way to do it, and it's the way that ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, loves to do, is the other way around. It's to hire first the practical art designers, the art people, to design and build, you know, physical models. And they even do like physical scale models. And then they scan that model and then brings those scan assets to the digital realm, to the virtual world. Why? Because that way you will have two advantages: more realism, and of course, you will be able to match more precisely both the foreground physical world with the background virtual world. That's why here we propose to have always a scanning department, you know, what we call the scanning artists. And I will show you a couple of examples of how that's done. And I will, of course, share the word with Sebastian, because he's a specialist in the different techniques regarding scanning. Sebastian, thank you very much and welcome. Where's Sebastian? Sebastian. Oh, maybe he's having some technical problems. There's a question here. What if the background in virtual production is based in real location? Oh, great question. Great question. And I have an example, an actual example of an indie movie that we did that way. Anyhow, here are some examples. And to answer your question, AK, here we have some examples of how can we scan locations. And the way we scan locations also are the way we can scan objects or props or assets of different kinds. Okay. So we can use, of course, drones, we can use specialized LiDAR cameras, and we can even use our iPhones, to scan elements. There you go. That's an example. So this technique is named, as you can see here, photogrammetry. And there are a couple of apps that they're free actually, that can help you with that. You can research that or ask us for advice on what kind of apps you can use for these. But yeah, that's exactly the way we can do it and scan it. Did I answer the question, AK? A bit? Okay. So as we can see here, we have this solution, but also we have AI generation. There are a couple of techniques to transform video to some kind of 3D assets, and also we can use AI to generate plates, what we call a technique we call 2.5D backgrounds. And the 2.5D backgrounds are layers, of 2D images composed together. So when the camera moves, you have parallax effect. You have a limited parallax effect because it's not full 3D. But when you do, small movements of the camera and you have quick shots, you can get away with this technique. And it's much faster. It is much cheaper to do this effect. And we have a couple of examples. We did this campaign for Dora the Explorer for Nickelodeon Amazon. And we use this technique for, trick the camera and use this layering composition and do this 2.5D effect. And you have the usual plate. When you have some situations where your camera moves very little or your camera is fixed or you have things very back in the distance, then you can get away with traditional plates. And you can do plates two ways. You can go and shoot with a very high resolution camera, such as Red or such as Blackmagic in 8K, 12K, 17K. And then you can get this plate and you can recrop it because you have very high resolution. You can recrop it and use it as a background. But also you can use, tools such as Flow to create actual, AI plates that might help you with your virtual production needs. So that's another way to go. Now, part of the workflow, and I will, show you this example, specifically this example, AK. And in this example, we have the problem of this producer, and this producer had this idea to do a lot of dialogue inside a very, very artistic, coffee shop, very famous coffee shop. The problem with that it was that it was very expensive to rent that space because the owner wants the rent of the space, but also he wants to cover the losses of closing that space for the shooting. So it was really, really expensive for indie movie to rent the space. The other way to go is to replicate that space on a set, and it was really expensive to build the space again and replicate it in an actual soundstage. So the solution was to rent the space for just 2 to 3 hours before the coffee shop opens, and it was pretty affordable, to do that. And then we use our cameras to scan all the place, all the coffee shop, and do a 3D mesh out of it. And with that 3D mesh, we were able to relight the way we wanted. We, as you can see here, we experiment with two situations. One happening dialogue. This is a proof of concept. This is not the actual actors working on the set, but to recreate, a magic hour situation here, an afternoon situation, and recreate also a daylight situation, as you can see here in the picture in picture. So the place became really, really flexible, and it was much, much faster, easier, and affordable to relight the place. Imagine to relight everything for daylight or for afternoon. You might need a lot of a big lighting rig to relight everything. And here we have this virtual production solution. And as you can see, it works perfectly with, glasses, with, of course, this base that's transparent. And we also did this handheld shaking on purpose so we can test the quality of the tracking reaction. So this is an example of how you can save a lot of money, by scanning, actual locations. And here is a, night shot, a pretty fast night shot that we did, also simulating the same place at night. So this proof of concept was precisely to demonstrate to these producers the actual workflow that they can use for this low budget challenge. Okay. So, Abid, I think this is a very good example of what you ask. Okay. So here we have some other examples. Here is our director of photography, and he's scanning with DSLR, where it actually is a mirrorless, scanning all the place around. And this is the process of transforming those pictures, those photos and videos into an actual 3D mesh for further use. And imagine that when you scan it, you own the place, you have the place, and you can use some of the assets inside the place. You can use some of the chairs or tables or whatever, and you can mix and match different, locations, different assets, different props. So that's pretty convenient and makes everything much more affordable. Same thing happens with photography. You need to match, with lighting, you need to match the lights, the practical lights with the digital lights. Of course, inside your environment, you will have lights. And as we said, the LED wall is a light source by itself. So it's very important to make it match. But also, one of the biggest advantages we have is you can make everything automatic. If you change the characteristics, if you change the temperature, if you change the spec of your background, lighting, digital lighting, you can automatically make the actual physical lighting change. And here we have a very nice example of that. So here, as you can see, this guy that programmed the DMX system can change the background, and immediately and automatically the foreground, lights will change. And that's done with a protocol named DMX. Okay. So that's pretty impressive. And imagine the time you can save with this process, because of course, if you rig everything, using your pre-production and using your tech beats in advance, then you can, make any change or a company move. Imagine that, a company move with the touch of a button. So that's pretty impressive. And that's why, actually, if you study the case of the new Mandalorian movie, it was one of the most affordable-ish, high-end, Hollywood movies with a lot of visual effects. And it's because they use a lot of virtual production techniques and a lot of automatic techniques to bring this magic to life. You know what I mean? You can do the same with actual special effects. For instance, you can see here some fire, incidents in here in him, and exactly that's the technique we use for train dreams. In train dreams, we design a fire scene, a forest fire. So we use these kind of techniques, and I will explain it when we get into the on that part of the study case. I will explain it to you. Okay. So also you will need always to do some kind of post-production. So you can use some tools to refine, your filmmaking. If you do your virtual production scene, you might be able to refine it. For instance, if you have a virtual production scene with someone, with a hand, then you can put, fire in the hand, and you will see some examples of that. And even with the new techniques, you can even relight your scene. If you want some variations of lighting and even some variation of camera angles, AI can help you with that. There you go, like that. So it's pretty mind-blowing, the potential of AI. I have to tell you, and maybe you heard about this, but right now it's a hit and miss situation. Virtual production is more precise than AI because it's more consistent. You have much more control than AI. With AI, you need to try and try and try, and you will get, hit and miss. You will get sometimes uncanny valley effect, etc., etc. But AI is getting better and better by the day. So you should really pay attention to that, and you should also, experiment with tools such as Aleph and Ray3. In our workshop, precisely that we will have, we will experiment with converging, with mixing all these techniques and using the best of virtual production and the best of AI to achieve, great results. I have a little example here of a music video we did, and we use AI to set up some scenes and to actually do some relighting and environment and atmospheric effects in this music video. Actually, we designed this shot that we have here. I'm sorry. This shot we have here to change the ambience, the lighting, the backgrounds, the atmosphere, the special effects and visual effects to make it match. So you will see here in a moment some of these shots, and we were able to put fire on it, to put rain on it, and to relight some situations to, of course, save a lot of time and money in this music video. There we go, I think. Almost there. There we go. And I think we will go over there with rain also. Here we have rain. And so it's pretty cool for some shorts, short shots that last, less than 5 seconds. You can get away with very cool VFX with actual AI. So here is the effect applied, for instance, here. And finally, I want to share with you this case study because we are pretty proud of it. As you know, Train Dreams, is nominated for 4 Oscars, and one of them is Best Picture, and the other is Best Cinematography. And we were our team was part of the cinematography team, and we worked with Adolfo Veloso, the DP. He's an amazing person. He trusts trusted us with all the process, and it was amazing. So let me share the trailer, and then we will see a making of that covers all virtual production.
Beautiful, ain't it? What is?
I didn't think you'd be home this soon.
I just couldn't stop walking until I got here.
What are you thinking about?
I was thinking that we ought to get married. This is rough work, gentlemen. Not just on the body. We just cut down trees that have been here 500 years. It's just a man's soul, whether they recognize it or not. Fishing, said I'm your daddy.
Deep down, she knows it. Even if she doesn't know, she knows it yet. In the forest, every least thing's important. It's all threaded together. So you can't tell where one thing ends and another begins.
Do you think bad things that we do follow us through life? I don't know. I've seen bad men raised up and good men brought to the knees.
He's all going by so fast.
Beautiful, ain't it? What is? All of it. Every bit of it.
Sorry. So now let's watch the making of it. It's really, really interesting.
Stars Joel Edgerton and Felicity. I'm Clint Bitley, and I'm the director of Train Dreams.
Talk to us a little bit about the movie.
Train Dreams is a movie based on the novella by Dennis Johnson, and it stars Joel Edgerton and Felicity Jones, and a story about. It really tells the story of this one man's life, Robert Grenier, who's a logger and an itinerant laborer who lives from the early 1900s until the 1960s, and sees the world just completely change around him as his whole industry of logging and expanding expanding westward. As all of that becomes mechanized and industrialized, and he kind of feels life pass on beyond.
Okay, well, I want to talk a little bit about the story of Train Dreams project. It was an amazing project. And I received this call from Bosler Studios. And after this call, they said they had this very interesting project regarding forest fire. So they asked us if we could do virtual set assets and in camera VFX about this huge forest fire. We flew to the actual studio to work directly with their rendering nodes and media servers.
Every project has some unique issues. In this particular case, this recent project, we had some shooting at some special frame rates, which are really interesting. And so, we're rapidly adjusting. So it might be an Unreal Engine, it might be exporting very 12K plates, but being able to do that rapidly on the spot. So having their team critical part of the process with integrated here at every stage is vital. So it's the previs, it's the creating the worlds, it's the going back and forth to iteration, and then being on set, running the wall, the volume, and having the artist here that can demand to whatever the director needs.
Parte de mi trabajo como técnico es solucionar esos problemas y hacerlo de la manera más eficiente posible todo aquí, de cómo generar estos escenarios fotorrealistas lo mejor posible, pero que también lo aguante la computadora y que todo esté corriendo en tiempo real, ¿no?
Job. I mean, it's, provided the CG environment in Unreal, CG renders that you're able to throw out there. This was the right decision to go this route for this project.
It's just been a great experience working with iDigital, and they're great collaborators. And every step of the way, they were able to take direction and really hone in specifically on what our director's vision. It's been great.
Everybody, who's been helping us from both companies has been so wonderful and so collaborative and helpful to the process. It's just been incredibly easy and a wonderful experience.
Hi, it has been such an extraordinary experience working with each screen. It makes our job so much easier, because so much of our imagination is done for us, because it just is, you're not acting for nothing. So it's been such a tremendous experience, and I think the effects is going to look fantastic with the finished film for Train Dream.
Was a total and absolutely success.
We were talking to a few different potential partners to see who could create that content for us. And as soon as we got the first tests, even the very rough tests from iDigital, those tests were just head and shoulders above anything else that anybody had sent through. And it was just very clear immediately that these were the people to work with.
Okay.
The more you stay home, the less you want to
Sorry
leave.
about that. That's weird. A little glitch
Stars Joel Edgerton.
on the presentation. Let me use the keyword. So yeah, as you can see, it was an amazing experience over there. I think we have a little glitch, weird glitch with the presentation. There we go. Let's try it again. There we go. So it was an amazing experience. It was a huge volume. All you see here is full 3D, and you can see the match between the actual foreground with the background, and it's amazing. It's just amazing. Here is the set, here's the actual shot of Felicity Jones. And yeah, it was an awesome, experience. This studio is in Seattle, and we help and operate studios in Seattle, in Dallas, Santa Monica, California, Anaheim, Tijuana, and Mexico City. So yeah, and of course, there are a lot of industries that benefit from AI and virtual production, not only filmmaking, you have also advertising and marketing, of course. You have gaming and XR. You have also corporate solutions. For instance, this amazing video, we did it for Amazon Studios, and it was a corporate video explaining everything regarding their new servers for AI, precisely. So everything was done with virtual production. It was done also in Seattle, in the same studio that we use for Train Dreams. And all the backgrounds you see here are real time and are virtual production. Of course, we did a lot of 3D assets to explain the technology. And that's another amazing, application for virtual production. So we also have events and entertainment. The same technology you use for filmmaking is the same technology you use for concerts, for entertainment. For instance, in the Santa Monica studio that's called Creator Space, we are working together with our partners, and they are designing these concerts, these hologram concerts. Remember the Tupac case that they use like a hologram to do a complete concert? Right now, we have over there a full volumetric space to capture full 3D video in real time. So we have 123 cameras rigged around, and it's capable of shooting, a 500K 3D Gaussian splatting video. And we can explain further exactly how we work with that, with that technology in our workshop. And we will do some practices over there in our workshop in that kind of, rig, amazing technology. Also, you can, use these techniques for architecture and real estate, as we said before, corporate events, etc., etc., etc. And we have several other case studies. We did this for Nickelodeon, Paramount, and as you see, there are a lot of applications. There are a lot of lines of work, learning how to use all these techniques and all these technologies. So it's very important. I think it's very important for all the filmmakers and all creatives around the world to update themselves, to learn themselves these new technologies, because it will give all the creatives in the world competitive advantages, and it will help them understand how the industries will work in the present and in the future with all these new technologies. So as we said, we have several alliances around the world with several studios. And we will have this workshop, and I will share the microphone to Luis Angel. He will explain what's the workshop about and when it will happen. Luis Angel, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. I hope the information that you got is really important, very valuable. We want you to know that iDigital, we trust the future of technology as a source to entertainment and other services and stuff that we need. So therefore, with the most recently Academy of Volumetric Production, we want to invite you to a virtual production VFX and AI for everyone intensive workshop from February 23 to February 28 on Santa Monica, California. It will be 4 online sessions that you will have Gabriel and my other teammate, that you will learn from them all of that. They have research, all of the tools that they have make on film, commercials, and other stuff. And to end it, it will be 2 intensive days in studio in Santa Monica. So you can work on set with them, following the instructions of how to master the virtual production case. And I really, really, really recommend you to.
Yeah, and we will work. Actually, we will work with. We will do some practices with the actual Train Dream set. We will shoot against it, and the idea in this workshop is also to make a music video, a final music video. As Luis Angel said, we will have 4 online sessions, and we will teach you all in detail, all around the theory and all the techniques that you will need to apply. And then we will have 2 full days on studio, inside the studio. And we will propose the team, we will propose you to do an actual music video, to have a finished product using all kind of techniques related to virtual production and AI. So maybe some of the students might be, musicians themselves, singer, or maybe players, instrument players, and we can do a music video around them and have this final product and be very proud of this final product using all the techniques. So if you're interested, please feel free to contact us to receive more information. Thank you very much. So do you have any additional questions? Any questions, guys?
I had a question.
Please, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, there's a range of projects, but for example, Train Dreams, what could the timeline look like for a full feature film like that from initial conversations, pre-production through production? Like, how long would that process take?
Great question. And actually, of course, with Train Dreams, I know exactly how it happened. So it took around 6 weeks,
Oh, wow.
Part of it was pretty close. Part of the challenge was to match the actual trees because in our first tests and proof of concepts that we sent, the director of photography, Adolfo Veloso, said, it's great, but those trees doesn't match the Washington trees. They are very different, the pines are very different. So when you have this problem, you apply precisely, you can look for stock of the precise, trees you need, or you can go to scan a couple of trees and then, mix and match the trees, transform the trees with modeling, you know what I mean? And we were able to do that. And then, as you saw in the actual movie and here in the making of, we were able to match the trees pretty neatly. So we were using exactly the kind of pines and trees that are on Washington, in Washington State, where the film was shot. So yeah, it was around 6 weeks. It was pretty fast. We were working full steam, of course. And as I said, fortunately, right now the technology is more accessible, is more affordable. So depending on your project, you can even have like between 2 weeks for some music videos. We had 1 week to make things. Of course, we have now a lot of assets on stock, so we are able to use those assets. And when you receive these requests that are pretty fast, you are limited to the design and the developing of these assets mainly. So yeah, you can negotiate with your client, for using what you have already. For instance, if you see here in the bottom right, we have a music video. Everything is floating around. It was really nice because it was an apartment, and then everything began to raise, to float, to levitate. And the foreground elements here, we levitated with, with fishing lanes, and the background was done with virtual production. And of course, we scanned the assets. If you see here, the background chair is exactly the same of the actual physical chair. But this was a very simple example because, as you know, furniture usually is pretty easy and fast to model, and you have a lot of stock of furniture around also. So yeah, so that's the way we handle that. And we can adapt as a production company because of the experience we have. We can adapt to any kind of budget and any kind of time frame. Of course, we need to negotiate, the reach and the scope of it. But right now, we are pretty flexible with that because technology allows us to do that. Did I answer your question, Chris?
Yes, cool. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Any other question, guys? Was a great question, actually. So bottom line, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a producer, if you're a director of photography, you must know that this technology right now is accessible for anyone. And our objective is precisely to teach you how you can do this through our workshops. And we believe and we hope these workshops can be like, a new way for you, and a new way for you to produce and to share with you a new mindset around these amazing new tools. Okay, guys. Okay, thank you very much, guys. If you have any question, of course, I will share my email and my WhatsApp, and feel free to reach me at any time, okay? I just shared my email, and my WhatsApp is here. Thank you very much, guys, and see you soon. I don't know if you were able to copy paste my info, but anyhow, we will reach you soon enough. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.